I'm really worried about the safety of my family.
A battle for power is raging in Germany. For the first time since World War II, a far-right party is expected to come second in a general election. And the country is divided.
They threaten my family. My husband's not from Germany. I've come from a Jewish heritage.
I don't want to live under a fascist regime.
When you have no arguments, especially in Germany, then you say Nazi.
We're heading directly in a situation of civil war.
So I'm on a journey through the AfD heartland to find out why some German voters are going far right. It's a pretty chilly February morning and we're in the car heading out of Berlin towards the state of Saxony. It's in the east, and the reason we're going there is that the Alternative for Germany, or AfD, party is holding a rally. So basically the plan is head down there, have a chat to some of the people in the crowd and find out what's attracting them to the party. So as we make our journey, let's run through the four main parties vying for power. In the lead at the moment, the party of former Chancellor Angela Merkel, the Christian Democrats or CDU and their CSU allies, led by this man, Friedrich Merz. There's the Social Democrats or SPD and the current Chancellor Olaf Scholz, the Greens with Robert Habeck, but polling second is the AfD, a party its leader calls conservative, but is dogged by allegations of racism, Islamophobia and right-wing extremism, which it denies. Its Chancellor candidate is former banker Alice Weidel. She lives in Switzerland with her wife and kids and has been endorsed by Elon Musk.
I very much hope that the AfD does well and that Alice Weidel does become Chancellor. I think that would be very good for Germany.
Weidel's right-hand man, Tino Kruppalla, is due to be holding the rally we're heading to. But when we arrive, his opponents are ready and waiting. Anti-AfD protesters have surrounded the building where they'll meet. Many signs accuse the party of being Nazis or fascists. The AfD in Saxony's been officially designated as a far-right extremist group. But they're still the most popular party here, which terrifies some.
I don't want to live in a fascist regime.
The AfD, though, would say that they're not fascist, they're the future for Germany.
They have no solutions. And they just say when there's not more migration, when there's less migration, then everything will be fine.
Say it loud, say it clear, refugees are welcome here.
So while it's not a big crowd here, it is actually quite tense, and we've seen just now the police have arrested some of the people from the anti-AfD side. They've been holding them by the fence there. They just let them go to a huge round of applause, but it shows you that even in AfD strongholds like Saxony, that there's a real tension and a real concern from people who are really worried about the future of Germany and the support for this party. They know it's unlikely the AfD will get into government as they don't have a majority and no other party will work with them. But for some, the fact a far-right party's polling second is mind-blowing. You speak to an AfD supporter, they'll say, I'm not a fascist, I'm not a racist, but we've taken too many migrants, for example, the country doesn't work for me. Yeah. What's your response to them?
I think they're just talking because if we look at this country, it's not my Syrian refugees whose fault it is that my wages are short or that, that it's crime. It's not refugees. To put all the fault on migrants, that's just wrong. We have to...
That's propaganda.
Suddenly, a man trying to get to the AfD rally interrupts.
If you want to compare something, then you can compare the 20s.
It's immediately clear how divided voters are, especially around migration.
I agree with the deportation thing because we have definitely too much foreigners and there's too much violence. I'm worried about that we're heading directly in a situation of civil war.
You think it's that bad?
Yeah, but society is so divided into two parties. I would say that, and there's so much hate and so much violence. I never see a situation like this before.
With that warning, as the police keep the two sides apart, we make our way into the hall where the AFD meeting's being held. Upstairs, a crowd is enthusiastically listening to co-leader Tino Kruppala. Burly security guards keep an eye out for trouble, but the audience is mainly adored. However, afterwards it seems some want to keep their AFD support hidden. Peter only agrees to speak to us if we don't show his face.
You are being persecuted by such people like Antifa outside, and they are not really Democrats because they are not accepting different opinions. Germany has become very unsafe. I am thinking about leaving the country.
What you hear in there is quite interesting because if you are living in the UK or the US, it's really familiar. It's straight out of the populist playbook, what people are concerned about. So it might be immigration, it could be green policies, but it's things that you might have heard from Donald Trump.
Refugees are welcome here.
The AFD formed in 2013. In the beginning it was Eurosceptic and anti-Euro with a clear focus on the economy. But in 2015, under new leaders, it moved further right, becoming a radical populist party. The migrant crisis of 2015-16 led to increasingly anti-immigration and anti-Muslim language. Slogans including "Islam does not belong in Germany" and "Burqas, we're more into bikinis" have caused controversy. A number of party members have been accused of trivialising the Holocaust and Germany's Nazi past. In 2024, a party aide was accused of spying for China, and there were national protests after AFD members attended a meeting where the mass deportation of foreigners was discussed. But none of that seems to have dented the AFD's popularity in this election, where immigration is once again in the spotlight. With just over a week to go to the vote, an Afghan man admitted deliberately driving into a trade union protest in Munich. As police hold the 24-year-old, a few metres away, the innocents caught up in this carnage. This is one of a number of alleged attacks carried out by foreign suspects. Here, a Saudi doctor's arrested after allegedly driving into crowds at a Christmas market in Magdeburg. 6 people died and hundreds were injured. As Germans grieve and try to make sense of the senseless, the debate around migration rages. So as we head to Magdeburg to find out what people are thinking, I think it's really worth just quickly recapping the migration situation here in Germany. So Germany traditionally takes in the most asylum seekers in the EU. And in 2015, the then Chancellor Angela Merkel announced an open door policy, which saw more than 1 million people arrive. And that helped fuel resentment and has really boosted the anti-migrant AFD. In December, as Magdeburg mourned, the far right rallied. Asylum seekers out, they shouted. Some marched behind a banner saying remigration. That's a right-wing plan to forcibly deport foreigners en masse. Where's the Christmas market from here? Syrian-born Saeed says a division has opened up in the city, and some now see all migrants as the enemy.
I think one person was waiting in the bus station or tram station in Hasselbachplatz, and 3 or 4 people attacked him and punched him. 2 blocks from here, someone told me his son was in the elevator. I think he's 8 or 9-year-old, and his neighbor, he tried to choke him. Also just choke him.
Tried to strangle him?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
And this was after the Christmas market?
After the Christmas market, yeah.
So people are afraid?
Of course, people are afraid. People are really, really afraid.
The AFD also held their own rally here after the Christmas market attack, mobilising mourners behind their anti-migrant, anti-Muslim message.
Satish could hear the crowd from his restaurant, and on some points he agrees.
So Germany is well aware that you have to integrate, you have to bring skills. Yeah, immigrants should not be threat to your country. There you have to draw.
This is Germans in Frankfurt cheering as Syrians arrive in 2015. So this is some of 1 million people who came in under Merkel's open door policy.
I have seen that. I mean, I won't say it's a mistake, but it was ignorance. They were ignorant about how the people will respond. You know nothing about them, and you accept them just like accepting or thinking or projecting that they will be like us. So this is something I will say this was something not very well judged at that time.
Satish isn't alone in his concerns. Around 60% of Germans now think the country should take fewer refugees. And last year, the government introduced checks on the border. The CDU wants to make those permanent and also is looking at the possibility of stopping some asylum seekers from entering the country. But like them or loathe them, like many populist parties, the AfD is really effective at converting concerns into support. They feed off worries over the economy, the cost of living, climate controls and migration.
But for others, the AfD inspires dread, not hope. Hundreds of thousands have demonstrated against the far right in the run-up to this election.
The AfD leader says her party isn't far right, it's conservative. But I've come here to Thüringen, which is a heartland of the AfD, because tonight one of the most radical members of the party is giving a speech.
How do you feel, Mr. Höcke?
This is Björn Höcke, a poster boy for the far right. He's the anti-immigration, Russia-friendly, Eurosceptic leader
Germany first.
Who helped the AfD win its first state election since World War II. A man who once called Berlin's Holocaust Memorial a monument of shame, has twice been found guilty of using a Nazi slogan, but is still adored by supporters.
Some people say that the AfD and Björn Höcke are a danger to democracy, that your party is fascist or racist. What do you say?
When you have no arguments, especially in Germany, then you say Nazi, so that you have not to argument.
So you think the AfD is the future for Germany?
Yeah.
1 in 3 people in Thüringen supports the AfD. And as excitement builds for tonight's main event, the party's merchandise is proving popular.
So I just wanted to show you this table because it's a bit of a who's who of American and German populism. So we've got here Elon Musk's biography. At the back here, Iron Man, Donald Trump. Then another Donald Trump here. And then here we have Björn Höcke, who is the man of the moment tonight. And then, of course, here, the Chancellor candidate for the AfD with Elon Musk.
With every seat in the hall full, it's time to start. For the next 2 hours, Höcke and the local candidates lay out their vision for Germany. Migration, Trump, Musk and Russia all get name-checked. This man, who once stood on the fringes of a fringe party, is now central to what's likely to be the far-right's most successful general election since World War II.
We asked before if we could have a question with Björn Höcke, and his press people said he'd decide on the night, so we're going to try and get one. Herr Höcke? Herr Höcke? Herr Höcke? Ein Anfrage von Sky News?
But the press have to wait. First to autographs and selfies with a long line of fans. A wake-up call to anyone still questioning the power of populism.
Your critics call you and your party a danger to democracy. You've been called a fascist, a racist. What's your response to that?
Das sind die Zuschreibungen der politischen Gegner.
Those are labels from political opponents. The traditional parties in Germany have become indistinguishable in content. That's why I call them cartel parties. They've merged into a cartel. Now a competitor is emerging, a competitor who challenges their power.
And what of Donald Trump, Musk and the US VP JD Vance, who looks open to working with the AfD.
I appreciate Donald Trump for his fight against wokeness. Now we have a government in America that shares the same values as the AfD.
That was really interesting because while he spoke about topics you'd expect, the war in Ukraine, migration, criticism of the current government, he also said that during the world wars, Germany was surrounded by enemies. And now he claims there's an administration in the US and in Russia, which he says supports them. He really believes this is the AfD's time.
Keeping an eye on the party's rise is regional spy chief Stephen Kramer. His office has classified Thüringen AfD as right-wing extremists.
The extreme right has managed to get into, how we call it, the hard chamber of democracy, and therefore going basically after the roots of our democracy and our liberal society.
The AfD and their local leader deny they're extreme or a threat. But Stephen believes the consequences of this vote could be monumental.
I'm very worried. I'm not saying we're the Weimar Republic in 1933, because for various different reasons. But it's the last moment, basically, from my point of view, to change the direction.
It's that stark. If the brakes don't go on soon, Germany's going in the wrong direction.
That's how I see it.
There's no doubt Germany is divided. But on one point, many agree. This election is a pivotal moment in German history. Will the AfD gain power this time? That's highly unlikely. But if the next government fails to respond to the needs of the people, then the far right could seize victory in 2029.